I'm Debbie Bell-Hosking for Finextra Television here at Cybos in London. And I'm talking to Marc Recker of Deutsche Bank. Hello, Marc.
Hi there.
We're talking transaction banking and how it's adapting to the dynamics that are affecting the industry. So my question to you is, what are these dynamics that are transforming the transaction banking landscape?
The industry is in continuous change, but we are talking about that over the last couple of years. But now it's really the time where you can identify dynamics that are really interconnected. One of them, for example, is geopolitical pieces. You can talk about, based on, we are in London, about Brexit. Is it happening when it's happening? You talk about trade wars, the peace with US and China. Transaction banks need to have their plans at hand, what to do in case what kind of scenario will really happen. Next to the kind of geopolitical piece, it's the never always changing, let's say, client demand. Client demand, clients do expect in their private life faster, simpler, cheaper. That we see now really happening as well into the corporate space. Corporate clients want to have the same kind of experience. Banking industry, especially the transaction banking industry, needs to adapt. Regulation and compliance, same thing. On the one hand side, regulators do come across with much more regulation when it comes down to AML directives, liquidity directives, but as well also you see it with PSD2, where in my view the banks do not only need to stop after being compliant, but also look into the business opportunities of these kind of regulation. Next to regulation, another dynamic is the implementation of the new technologies. Transaction banks can only survive if you are really looking into these kind of new technologies. But not like blind, you have to think about what is the right technology for my company. The same, for example, is with this robotic process automation. You have to make, first of all, your processes clean before you can automate them. That is the piece. And last but not least, it's really the point around the fight for talent. With all these different dynamics, you need today and tomorrow a complete different kind of talent pool inside the organization to be able to meet those requirements for the future.
I mean, that's a lot of dynamics that you're talking about. And what sort of impact is this having? I mean, how does the industry need to change to be competitive?
Not every transaction bank will come up with the same strategy. But I think what's very important that every transaction bank needs, first of all, to take a step back and to identify, to understand where is the disruption happening? Where does it hit my P&L? And then to define where can I differentiate myself from the rest? Adapt new technologies, having the right people. Those are the things that the industry needs to change. Some good examples where the industry over the last couple of years did some great work was open banking. Collaboration in open banking is happening. The piece around instant payment developments. We can now transact payments into a second compared to, let's say, batch processing a couple of years ago. Even on the cross-border side, with the SWIFT GPI initiative, we can now process payments across the globe below the 20-second mark. And that is exactly the piece that we have to continue as an industry.
And you touched there briefly on the questions that banks need to ask themselves. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, the questions the banks need to ask themselves is, can I do it alone? Yeah, can I do everything alone? Is it something where I'm strong enough, where I'm big enough to be everywhere in the world? It's unlikely that the response on that one would be yes. It's then to make the right decision. Do I partner with other banks? Do I partner with a fintech? Is the fintech the right thing for me? Is it a collaboration between several banks? Is it only looking into like industry-wide solution that SWIFT is proposing? You have a lot of options, but you won't have a one-size-fits-all answer on that one.
And you're talking about partnerships. Could you elaborate a bit more and just tell me a bit more about the partnership between Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan?
Yeah, more than happy to do so. So Deutsche Bank joined last week, signed a letter of intent to join the JP Morgan Interbank Information Network that we have seen as a kind of an opportunity as a partner of JP Morgan to join that network to be able to drive the future of this network as well. It will create efficiencies for the banking industry, everything in a non-competitive space to have much more agile solutions for the market that will even drive more client satisfaction going forward.
So Marc, we've spoken about the questions banks should ask and we spoke about partnerships, and you've told us about the partnership with Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan. Those are the questions banks should be asking. What must transaction banks do to remain competitive?
Next to the obvious piece around collaboration, it's the fact also to work as an industry on a global level together around standardization. Because you can only create efficiencies across the globe to work on the same kind of standards. We don't have to make the same error as we did historically to end up with 40 instant payment schemes across the globe that are not really being interoperable with each other. On the other hand, next to that piece as well is going beyond to only listen to the client. We at Deutsche Bank take the approach of getting much more proactive with clients into co-creation, whiteboarding session, listening to client demand and trying to really get the products designed directly on the client needs. Last but not least, I think the transaction banks itself, we would need to focus on our core strengths. The trust we have in our clients, the access to central bank money that we banks have, and also the point around security that we can provide towards our clients.
Marc, thank you. That has been an interesting chat.
Thank you very much, Debbie.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.